who do you have to be? I ask myself that all the time because I get caught in the doing. And I said, who do I need to become to do the things I need to do, to have the things I need to have? Because I'll just go into the fine, I guess I'm not supposed to have that. Like my dream home or my dream car. And I'm like, or what do I need to do to have those things? More importantly, who do I need to become? And usually I'm the bottleneck.
Welcome to another episode of The Rooted Founder. I am so excited for this guest, Tabatha, to be on with us today. She has a family business with her husband, which I have a family business, so I know what that feels like and what that's about. She's passionate about building generational wealth, and she has 5 bundled sunshine daughters. So I'm one of 6 kids, so this is interesting.
Yes.
They are also continuing to build their 7-figure real estate portfolio, and that has been a dynamic thing they're doing, and even maybe starting another company. So, and she's also very passionate about their mission, which is the Legacy Wealth Project. And she's the host of What Went Wrong, which a lot of things can go wrong in business, in life, in real estate investing. So, Tabatha, welcome.
Thank you, Staci, so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, one thing that is on your website is this quote. And I'm going to read it, and then I would love for you to expand on what it means to you. So Henry Ford said, if money is the hope for your independence, then you will never have it. The only real security a man will ever have in this world is a reserve of knowledge, experience, and ability.
Yes. So one of the reasons why I love this quote is because, and this is so true right now, and I actually just talked about this with a guy an hour ago, about if you have the knowledge, if you have the experience, it doesn't matter if you lose everything, if you lose all the money in the world. If you have that knowledge and experience, you're going to go back and you're going to build it again. People talk about this all the time. They say the world needs to, or, the United States needs to take the money and disperse it evenly. And I'm like, it's going to end up back in the hands of the ultra rich, or however you want to, quantify those people, because they know how to make it back. And so that's why lottery winners end up broke or broken or, whatever, because they don't know what to do with it. But it's the journey of obtaining it, experiencing it, the learning, the wisdom of it, and also learning that it's not about money at all. And that's one thing that I want to teach people. Money's like oxygen. We really need it to live. It is something that is important. I don't want to say like, oh, we don't need money and we're going to live. And we need money. We live in, most of your listeners, I'm guessing, are in the United States, but around the world. I mean, how many mission projects do you say, like, send money over here because they need water or they need food, right? Like, we need money to live. But when you can learn that money isn't something that should be feared, it should be something that shouldn't be loved on, which I mean, like, it should not be your ruler. It's just something that you can use as a tool to make your life more successful. And then it takes kind of that pressure off. So when you look at it of saying, okay, what skills, what knowledge, what wisdom, experience do I need to make more of this money, which is just value that you add to the marketplace? And when you can learn those little hidden gems, it's like the veil is lifted and you're like, oh, I can see. And that's what I want to teach people, is that you just need the veil lifted. There's so many people call them limiting beliefs. If you're not a mindset guru person, or, you think that's a bunch of hocus pocus, just look at it like when you learned, or if you don't know, if you do learn about compounding, like the first time I ever heard about compounding, it was like, what? Because I'm not a math person. So, and I mean, I took algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry, all the things in school, but they didn't teach us about compounding. I was like, what's wrong with this? Right. And so it was like the veil was lifted and I was like, man, this is so amazing. When we really learned about real estate and what it meant to have an asset versus a liability, it was like, oh my gosh, like, Staci, when something just really makes sense, you're like, that's just so common sense. And then I read it in the Bible, or, things that just like make sense. I don't know, it excites me because I'm like, it's a game to me. It's just fun. And I think people put so much like serious anxiety and stress on it. It's because they don't have a true understanding of it.
Yeah. So I have made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and then made it again.
Yeah.
And so your idea around it, money isn't the solution. You could have all the money, we could dish out money, and you would still lose it because you don't have the character to hold it, invest it, and grow it. And I would love for you to talk to the principles of wealth or the characteristics of wealth that you're passionate about, because you're working on not just instilling that with the people that you serve, but also in your home to preserve that generational wealth.
Right. I love this topic because this is really where, if you go look up like real estate gurus or even like business gurus, and there's a lot of amazing people out there. And I think guru almost gets a bad name nowadays, but that's because there have been so many snakes that have said like, I will make you rich and wealthy and, come to me and I'll give you the cure to all that. And it's all about me, right? Like that person has made it about them, and it's not. Even in the Legacy Wealth Project, it's not about Tab and Tracy. It's just we have some knowledge and some experience that could benefit you, but we want to build a community of people that are giving their knowledge, wealth, and experience to help other people, right? Because when we can hear other people's stories of like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one. And women will do this. We'll talk amongst us and be like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one who had this trouble with the underlying bags under my eyes or whatever. We'll share our eye cream, but men won't do that. It's like this ego, this pride thing. And so I want to create an environment where it just softens everything and says, okay, if you ask anybody, even, like Hitler's mom or like Jeffrey Dahmer's mom, they weren't thinking they were going to raise these like horrible criminal. Like, they weren't thinking like, I want to raise this horrific person, right? We all want better for our kids, even abusers. I love the human mind psychology. And I used to be obsessed with like criminal minds. I can't do it anymore since I've had kids. I get too wrapped up in it. But I used to, like in my early college days, I would learn about the criminals and like their mindset and like the psychology. And I was so fascinated by it because I was like, how can a human being torture someone else? Because I can't fathom that, right? And so they would interview these people, like abusers of kids, and even the abusers, they wanted better for their kids. Like some twisted, weird way they thought by doing that would make them better. I don't know. But in their mind, their psycho mind, they still wanted better for their kids. So every entrepreneur, business owner out there, when they're working 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week, and they're missing ball games and family nights and dinners together, it's not because they hate their kids or their family, or most of them anyway. Like they're not trying to avoid that. They're trying to make a better life. They're trying to do more. But what I want to bring to that person is, hey, why don't we bring you and what you're learning? And even if it's hard to be a parent. Oh my goodness. Like it is one of the hardest things ever. But when you can bring you to the table, even your ugly self, even your irritable, impatient, all the things that you think you might not be a great parent. Like when you can bring yourself to the table, it transforms your kids' lives. It really does. And so I say that because I think so many people, they're like, my dad, who he did the best that he could, but he ran from some emotional pain to go to work because he was like, but if I'm providing, then I don't have to deal with the fact that my wife is sick and dying and I can't do anything about that. I am going to go run to work and I'm going to earn money because we have these medical bills that are piling up, instead of trying to find a financial solution that would give us more time back, because he was doing the best that he could. But we know better now. We know that time with your kids, and I'm not saying you have to be a stay-at-home parent. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying like bringing the time back with them so you can teach them what it means to have integrity, instead of just showing them a YouTube video or, saying you must have integrity. We'll show them. You can show them what it means to have patience, even if you don't have it, or forgiveness because you ask for it when you do something wrong, right? You can show them what an asset is instead of a liability when you buy an income property and you physically take them to that property and you say, this house is going to make us money because someone who can't afford a house is going to come and live in it. And we're going to make it look pretty. And you're going to teach them hard work and labor. And then show them you don't have to do the labor. You can hire someone out, but see how hard a work it is. So you're going to respect that worker and not think you're above them or better than them. You're just a little experience or wisdom ahead of them. Right. So I think it brings humility when you can show them, but you can't do that if you're working this, 90-hour work week, super stressed out, thinking money and a bigger house and fancier things and shinier things are going to do it. We've all seen it. You see this. It's crazy to me because by second generation, over 70% of wealth is gone. By third generation, 90% of wealth is gone. It's insane what happens when you don't teach the characteristics of not only what that money can do, because you have to respect money. I'm not saying that money is just this haphazard thing. You have to have a respect for it and when you respect it, it doesn't rule you. It's just it's a tool. You can be used for good. It can be used for evil. And I think when you can be present in your kid's life and show them that, and you can surround yourself with other families and other people where they're like I said earlier, oh my gosh, they have a kid that's like me who wants nothing to do with, money. My daughter, she just she won't talk about money because her friends, the way they talk about money, it's this negative, I have to know what my job is going to be when I'm 15 and I don't want to worry about bills. And she has all this emotion to money. And I'm like, are you coming from my household? But then realizing that maybe we did have that and she suppressed that. And now this is coming out, and we're teaching these principles and she wants nothing to do with them. And I can feel like a failure, like a bad coach, a bad mom, like I'm teaching people this and my own daughter doesn't want to know it. Or I can walk through it with her and say, there's probably other families that you have a kid that just gets it. My second oldest, she just gets it. She's like, Mom, when can I buy my first income property? I want people paying me. She gets it. My oldest daughter, it's like pulling teeth, but instead of getting down about me, oh, what did I do wrong as a parent? I need to look at it through her. And when I can connect with other people that say, you're not going to do it perfect. If you're an entrepreneur, that doesn't mean your kids are going to be entrepreneurs. That doesn't mean you did it wrong. That doesn't mean that you're horrible. There's always redemption. I hated my dad all growing up because I never spent time with him. Hated him. Wish he had my mom's illness instead of her. I loved I was so close with my mom. Now my dad is my best friend. There is redemption there. But we have to recognize it. We can't hide from it. And when you can do it as a simple, like I said, I use this as a tool, but buying an income property as a family in the family vision where you can go and you can roll up your sleeves and you can paint some walls and you can show them what it is to transform something, even if you could pay somebody to do it, just doing it as a family project one time and just showing them. And then saying, okay, now every month they're going to pay us and we have these expenses, but this is our cash flow. And you're going to plant seeds and not all your kids are going to pick up on that right away. And that's okay because it's not meant for them to have a seed planted today and it grow to an 8-foot oak tree. It's going to take time. And as entrepreneurs, we're fast paced, right? We want to see results now. We want to see this now. And with kids, it's not like that. We've been planting these seeds in our kids. My oldest is 15. We took her to projects when she was a baby. So these seeds are planted and they will come to fruition how they're supposed to. But I don't want to say I didn't even plant the seeds. I want to plant the seeds.
I love everything you're saying. I think that we do get caught up in this bigger, better, more culture.
Yeah.
And usually we're sacrificing our dinner tables to achieve more zeros in our bank accounts or more another 100 followers. And we are not modeling around our dinner tables patience, grit, hard work, trust, respect. integrity. And so we're saying things, but we're living lives that are incongruent. And those that are witnessing us are seeing that and viscerally experiencing it. And I think you're speaking to a lot with modeling about embodiment, right? You can gain the whole world, but lose your soul.
Yep.
And how do we as leaders, and I don't have kids yet, but you have communities, you have little eyes looking up to you. I have 15 nieces and nephews.
Oh, yes.
My sister has 8 of her own. One of them is like your daughter. She's a little entrepreneur, and she's like before school lemonade stand, candy stand on the corner. And the other kids are sleeping in video games. Like, it's just different. And my sister's the same mom. And I do think that a more accepted form of numbing right now, like, I think we have 2 choices in life. You get to your enough is enough. I can't keep operating that we can numb or kneel. But an acceptable numbing form is workaholism. And we've accepted it as a society. So how are
providing?
Yes.
It's like it's a noble thing. And for men, it's really noble. For women, it's you're sacrificing being a mom. How could you? You're a heinous bee. Like, your kids are going to grow up and be drug addicts, prostitutes, whatever. But the husband, it's fine. And I grew up with that. Like, my dad, it was okay for him. And I look at it and I forgive him. So, like, everybody that's like listening, I harbor nothing for my dad. I choose to forgive him every single day. But he ran from the emotional turmoil, and my mom and us were the collateral damage. Now, I'm glad he did that over leaving us and, us being on welfare. But at the same time, I'm like, Dad, you were so smart. Like, my dad is one of the smartest people I know. He is an electrician, like a self-made electrician. He is so hardworking, would do all these things, and such a man of integrity and loyalty, like so loyal. But it was easy for him to go and work for somebody else instead of figuring out how to be his own entrepreneur, to motivate his own self. But he did the best with the mindset that he had, and whatever was switching him and moving him and all of those things. And I think, the enemy has something to do with this, especially for men. And my husband's the same way. He's a provider. He's like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to, this is bringing in money. His whole focus is like, so our family unit doesn't fall apart. And I'm like, honey, we've been together for 24 years. I love you. I will live in a van down by the river with our 5 daughters. Like, we have an RV. It'll be crowded, but it's fine. Like, take the risk. I won't blame you if you go and bet the farm. And I know there's some women that do. And they would, be on him. I'm not one of them, but he lives in that caution, his personality type, and why I love him. And I think what you said is so true. We let our personality types define us. Like, oh, well, they're driven, right? They're ambitious. So that's okay. It's okay as long as you don't run over people, meaning your family. And if you're married and have kids, then you did take on that responsibility to also be ambitious and driven in your marriage. And like you said, I love what you said about showing them who they are at the dinner table, because so many relationships right now are not married. And I'm not going to get into a whole like political, should you marry? I'm Christian, so I believe you should get married, like commit, like and even if you're not a spiritual person or a religious person, however you want to say it, commit to something. Like, we just don't want to commit. And then if they do, this relationship is like, well, I can get out of it. But what are they seeing? Like, my daughters, my husband, like, we really don't try to argue in front of our girls, not because we don't want them to see an argument, but like, there are certain things that need to happen not in front of their eyes. And then also, if we do, we need to show them how a healthy argument takes place, right? Like, we hear each other's sides. They should see us being playful with each other. They should see us going on date nights. They should see us hold hands. They should see us give each other grace or forgive each other. My older daughters, I tell them, like, right now, my husband is really, his plate is full. I hate using the word busy. His plate is very full. We are farmers. We're real estate investors. It's harvest time. But I tell my daughters, like, I will tell my oldest, not my youngest, but I'll tell my oldest, I'll be like, I'm a little frustrated with your dad right now. So I'm sorry if I seem short-tempered. I don't air our dirty laundry to her, but I show her it's okay to be frustrated with somebody you love, but you still love them and you still care about them, and you don't do stuff because I don't try to people please my husband. I do it because I truly do love him, and that's what selfless love is, without being a doormat. See, women can be doormats and the people pleasers and then harbor all this guilt, or they're going to be the wretched bee that's like, no, you do that yourself. You know, and there has to be this middle ground that we teach women. It's okay to have a selfless love. That doesn't mean you're a doormat, but you also have standards where you communicate. Like, it's not okay that you said that to me today, or it's not okay that you worked 13 hours and you spent 30 minutes with our daughters. It's not okay. So how can we change this? What do we need to do differently? Do we need to change our spending habits? Do we need to downsize? Do we need to invest more? Do I need to take a better opportunity? Do I need to open my eye? What skill set do I need to learn, right? Like, we just need to ask these better questions. I love Tony Robbins says it all the time. Like, it's about the questions you ask. I can ask my husband, like, why did you do that? Or why are you so late? Or why do you work so many hours? Or I can say, how can we make it so you're home more and enjoy more when you're here and you're not stressed out? How can we enjoy these family vacations without you checking your phone every 5 minutes because the work back home, you know, like, those are the questions. And that's what's taught. That's building the character. That's teaching your kids to think differently, because our kids go to public school and we have a great public school, but it's still public school and they're still going to teach a certain way. So I have to not undo what they did, but add to it and say, okay, your teacher said that these test scores are going to determine your future. How? Oh, I won't get into a good college. Okay, well, what if you don't go to college? Well, then I won't get a good job. Okay, well, do you know that right now there's more online jobs than there's actually professional jobs? You know, like, teaching them to not question authority in a like rebellious way, but just question it in a way that's like, where are the actual facts coming from? One of my, I went to college, I got a 4-year degree. So it was the most expensive hobby that I had, but I had a professor, and one of the things that she said was, you have to go by, there's facts, there's theories, and there's opinions, and they're all valid in our world. You have to have theories because you got to go test those theories to see if they can become a fact. Like, there's value in it, and people's opinions are valued. Like, they are a value because they lead to the theories that can lead to the facts, right? And we're all entitled to our opinion, and we all want to feel heard and seen. But knowing the difference of that, some people think that they're quoting fact and it's their opinion. Some people think they're quoting fact and it's a theory. And I think just questioning it in a way that keeps you curious. Like, I love my 2 and 3-year-old because they're always asking me why, why, mommy? Or what was that noise? Or what's that over there? They're so curious. And at some point as adults, like, we don't become curious. We just become either know-it-alls or just like, we don't care. We don't want that wisdom. We become a fool. And it's like, just become curious and teach your kids to be curious in a way that shows humility and openness, not curious and rebellious, but like wanting to know more. And that's my second daughter. She will question the status quo. She doesn't care about going to college, but my oldest is like, oh, I'm going to college. I'm like, well, what do you want to study? Well, I don't know. Well, that's a stupid reason to go, but it's important to her. So I'm not going to devalue what's important to her. I'm going to ask her questions, and I'm going to say, well, why do you want to go? And if it's because your friends, that's a valid reason. Parents, stop saying it's not valid. Their friends are their most important source right now. They feel like they're their oxygen. If they have a boyfriend and the boyfriend's going, I had a boyfriend in high school, I know what that pull is. Listen, value that and validate that, but then say, okay, but this is what you're getting into, and this is the road that you're going down. And if you're fully aware of that, go. You're going to be an adult. That's fine. But if a lot of kids don't know, they don't realize college, that they don't realize when they come out of it. I think the average person that comes out of college, they make less than 50K. I think it's actually like 40K, but I mean, it's crazy. And they're in like anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 in debt, depending what school you go to. And the increment that they will get raises will never match that debt, because then they buy a house and then they buy a car. And if they don't learn to invest it in assets, and they don't learn what money really is, and that the education that they got, they probably could have gotten a different way, unless you want to be like a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher. They don't know that. They get a business degree. Staci, you and I both know that you can get a better business degree working online, like from the bottom up, like,
Well, I always speak to this because I didn't go to college and I've built over 50 businesses, organized a scale over 50 businesses.
Thank you. Yes.
And proof, I will talk to your oldest daughter about it.
Yes. And just teaching them that, and introducing them to that. Like, I did get a college degree because I was told that was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. I knew that I wanted to do something in psychology or counseling because I just naturally wanted to help people. I saw my mom suffering, my sister suffer. I wanted to heal the suffering. But when I went my senior year and I went to my advisor and I said, hey, what should I do next? Because like, I want to get my counseling degree. And she goes, hey, I just want to let you know, because I wanted to go into marriage counseling. I said, hey, what do I need to do next? And she goes, yeah, you get your master's, you get your doctorate. I'm like, okay, 4 more years of school, like not my favorite, but I'll do it. She goes, I'm just going to let you know that most people that come to marriage counselors, they still end up getting a divorce. And I said, yeah, not happening. I am not going to go into a field where we don't get results. So I said, I'm not spending another 4 years and however many $100,000 in debt to have mediocre results. So I said, no. And it was the best decision I ever made, because now I'm in the coaching industry and I'm able to see the difference between therapy and coaching, counseling and like in-depth counseling, meaning if you go to like a facility, because my sister was an alcoholic, I've seen all these little things and we need them all. Like, there is a place for therapy. There is a place for counseling, but there's a lot of really bad therapists and counselors out there that will let you dwell in your pain and your inability to get out of it. And I'm not that person. And I've dealt with a lot of pain. And I know there's a lot of other people that have dealt with a lot of pain. And until you learn to get out of it and cope with it and decide to be what I call, instead of being a fool, like you want to be a person of wisdom and realize that everything really does happen for you. And people, even if they do heinous things, there is something that caused that evil, right? Like it's not just innate. It's like something caused that. And when you can learn to forgive, not for them, but for you, it heals so many wounds. And I see so much in therapy and counseling, and that doesn't happen. And so I'm glad I didn't go down that road. And I'm glad my husband, when I was 19 years old, said, hey, let's buy this house and I'll live in the basement and let's rent out the top. And I said, okay, let's do it. We knew nothing. We knew nothing about it, but we did it because we saw it as a way to build a future for our family.
I love this story. And I would like to double tap on heal the suffering. And maybe we can slow it down a little bit, because
yes,
this is actually a very personal passion of mine. I've gone through my own personal healing journey. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and high achievers, one of the ways that we cope is through performance. Yep. And we get really good at doing. And since it's so accepted in society, we get to mask the need to heal. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, in your life, like, you've achieved a level of success. You have your portfolio, you have your family business, you have your wealth projects that you're working on. What was your personal healing journey like that helped you integrate?
Okay, I'll give you a fast backstory so I can slow this part down to just really help your audience, because honestly, nobody really cares about me except for the fact that you want to say, okay, she has been through a little bit of pain, but now tell me how to heal mine, right? My mom had an autoimmune disease since I was 2. So she was bedridden most of my life, and it caused me excruciating pain because I was super close with my mom. So I would sleep on her floor, in her bed, that she had a little couch until I left. But even my husband now, when he was my boyfriend, we would lay in bed with her and watch TV. Like, he was so amazing because he would lay with me because I just wanted to be close to her. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was so scared of her dying that I just always wanted to be there when I could be there. And I remember this moment when I was little. My mom was a clean freak. It was the one thing she could control. So our house was always like spotless. We had 5 kids. You would never know, right? and she vacuumed every day, like religiously.
We
And
had the same mom.
that was crazy. And I'm a mom now. I'm like, I'm lucky if I get once a week. Okay. So, I had books out and she said, "Hey, Tab, you need to pick up this book." And I was probably 5 years old. And you get to play and you don't do it. And I didn't pick it up. And I was playing and I look over and she's right by the book, like laying on the floor. And I remember running and hiding behind the couch because I thought my mom had tripped on the book and fell and was dead. And the ambulance came and they took her. And I remember like I can still vividly remember them taking her out on the stretcher. She had a blood clot, so it caused her to faint. But I didn't know that. And then I remember being so upset because I was going to have to stay with my grandma, who was not very nice. It was my dad's mom. She was a hard German woman. And I was like, first I do this to my mom, and then I have to stay with my mean grandma. This is like the worst day of my life. And I don't ever remember anybody coming and explaining to me like, no, you didn't cause this, but just seeing that, like that I could have caused that or whatever. I was like, I want to do whatever I can to help people. So I'm a very much like, if I can take the burden off of you, I will. I don't want to burden you with my problems, so I'll keep it in. Like I will take all of that. And when I met my husband, my sister had a mental breakdown when I was in junior high. She was in high school. Again, I adored her. She was my best friend, but she was alcoholic, bulimic, anorexic, had so many demons. It was insane. She was 94 pounds, thought she was fat as a whale. She was the most popular girl. Every guy wanted to date her. Every girl wanted to be her. And she thought that she was so hated that when she became homecoming queen, the reality that she was popular was so much for her that she had a complete and mental breakdown. And I watched this as a 7th grader. We all know when you're 12 or 13 years old as a female, right? Very informative years. And I had to literally hold her like a baby and rock her back to sleep, because if I wouldn't hold her, she would run around the house naked and throw herself against the wall. So I witnessed this and experienced this at times in my life where I just didn't want the suffering. When I met my husband, I wasn't like a heavy drinker or anything, because I was a sophomore in high school when I met him. But I dabbled in it. I was not like this, like super like sexual promiscuous, but I thought about it. Like I was on the road, right? And God was like, I'm going to bring you somebody that's going to make you feel seen, loved, and heard. And I was 15 years old. And I will be forever, and I'm not going to get emotional, but I will be forever grateful, because although we've been through a lot, and I put him through a lot and he's put me through a lot, and his strongholds are work and providing, and mine is, success and attention. We've had to deal these. I'm just like you said, like I want to do this accomplishment. So going forward, looking at myself, I had to learn how I brought myself to the table. And am I doing this for a selfish reason? Am I doing this for somebody else? Is this a desire of my heart? Just taking an inventory and being okay if it is a selfish ambition. Like I want luxury things. That's hard for me to say because I come from humble beginnings. Does that mean that I will give up my marriage so I can live on a yacht in, the Caribbean? No. But does that mean that like I'm going to do work extra hard instead of maybe watching The Real Housewives of Atlanta? Yes. So, looking at like the trade-off of things, I think is really important for people. I'm a workaholic, but I early on wanted to raise my kids. So I had to say no to a lot of things that I wanted to say yes to. Even right now, I work in the afternoons. I have an amazing nanny that God placed in my life. She comes from 12:30 to 4:30. That's when I work. And if I don't get it in, I don't get it in. I sometimes will bring work home if I get them to bed, if my husband and I have connected and I need to do like a response back to a podcast or a connector or something like that. But I really try not to. If I do anything at home, it's more learning. I'll read, I'll do those kind of things. But I've had to say no, even though it's like I would do 10 podcasts a day. I would go out and, work deals on 10 different projects. I'd go coach 100 people. I'd go speak on stages every single day. I would travel every week all across the country to give because I love it. It makes me feel alive. But I look at my 5 daughters and I don't want them to be collateral damage. So when we are accomplished driven, we have to ask ourselves, what is the accomplishment and what void are you trying to fill? Mine was getting my dad to say, I'm proud of you. You've done enough. You are enough. What you did today, U.S. Tab Brooks, which was my maiden name, like he used to call me Shorty. You being alive is enough. And I have to still daily, like yesterday, I did a cry. I mean, I'll be completely transparent with your audience. I did a cry out because we have a lot on our plate. And I just like fell to the ground, like in my seat. And I just said, I have to know that I'm doing enough. I have to know that I'm enough. And my creator just whispered, you are enough. And it was like this piece just was like, whatever I get done today, I get done. And whatever I don't, I don't. And I have to constantly remind myself of that, because when I put stuff on my plate, it's not to people please. It's because I love a challenge. Challenges make me feel alive. Challenges make me feel accomplished. Like if I can do this, why do you think I have 5 kids? I'm like, most people don't have 5 kids. Like I'm going to do this, right? Like, you know, I mean, that's a side note. I love my children and they bring us so much joy, but it's like we do these things, and I do these driving things because they make me feel alive. But I also have to be able to sit on the couch with my daughter like I did yesterday morning, because she threw up and she's 2 years old and all she wanted to do was mommy to hold her and watch Cocomelon. And as mind numbing as that is for somebody, I did, but I felt the joy in it. I didn't just do it. So as achiever, I can't tell another achiever to not want to achieve. That'd be like telling you, you need to be blonde. That's silly. Like you're beautiful as a brunette. Why would I try to change you? It's okay to want to achieve. It's just a matter of aligning it in a way that gives what you currently have, meaning if you already have a family or if you want a family, how can you achieve in that and find the joy, the peace in those little moments? But then also, is your achievement driver getting you to a place where God wants to use you as a better vessel? Which what I mean by that is like, I'm an achiever, so I want to become the best version of myself. So I'm always looking up like holistic things. How can I help joint pain holistically? Stem cell, red light therapy, you know? And I'm like always looking at all this stuff, like research, like how can we afford this? Could I like rent it out so I could use it as a business expense? Like I'm always like thinking like this. But then I'm like, it's adding life, you know, years to my life, you know, God willing, if I, you know, whatever the things I can control. How can I become a better wife? How can I be more selfless? Was I being irrational? Do I need to ask for forgiveness? Do I need to spend time with the Holy Spirit? Like those are achievement things for me, but it's also helping me become the person that God wants me to become, which is the whole reason why we're on this earth. Like we're here, work was developed. I'm going to give a little mind-blowing perspective for you. And maybe you've thought about it, but there has someone who's listening maybe hasn't. If you're a believer, when Adam and Eve were created, they had everything, right? God gave them there was no need for money. There was no need for food. Like you have everything. But God said, you will work the land. Why did he want us to work? Because we are here to build character in our work, not to earn money in our work. So if you're doing work that's not creating a better character in you, then you're not doing the right work. You have to ask yourself, like everyone tries to find their purpose, their passion. What work brings out the best character in you? For me, speaking, training, working with people, networking, that brings out the best version of myself. You know what doesn't? Techie stuff. Going out and renovating a project, although that does build other kind of character. But you know, like I've learned it because I've done it. And I think that's what teaching our kids are. Like I just had this kind of break moment with my oldest. I told you that she's not catching it like I want her to. And I finally, the other day I just said, I'm very passionate. I just finally said, Adriana, I said, I want to teach you about money, not to stress you out, but because I want it to never be a stronghold in your marriage. I never want it to be a reason why you don't pursue your dreams. I never want it to be a reason why you have to put your kids in daycare. I want you to understand money now at 15 so that you can do whatever is passionate to you, whatever God wants you to do, mission work, daycare, whatever, because you love it, not because of money. I said, I love you so much and too much to let this go, because she just kept blowing me off. And if anybody on here has had teenagers, you just get so frustrated, you're like, fine, and you leave. And I just read the sermon that says, if you leave, then when they're ready to come back, they have nobody to come back to. So I had to keep going. And I just poured my heart out. I said, I want you to do this so you can do what you're passionate about. We have listeners on here. You need to do, yes, what's passionate, but what's building your character from the inside out, that's bringing your best self. And that's what the achievements are about. It's not about so you can have 100,000 followers, because I guarantee you're not going to have 100,000 people at your funeral. You want to have that impact on the people that literally are going to have the ripple effect. And I want my great great grandkids to tell my legacy. I couldn't tell you about my great great grandma. I couldn't. And my great grandma, the one I can tell you about, had a mental breakdown and was mentally broken. That's her legacy. I don't want that legacy. I'm not saying that I can't tell people about my hurts and they can't say she went through a lot of struggle, but look what Grandma Tab did. Like, look what Grandpa Tracy did. Like, they built this when nobody else believed them. When they lived in a town of 400 people, they built a 9-figure empire. Not because of the money, but look, they donated money for the track so we could have a concrete track. They donated this for this organization so they could have this. We want to live that legacy. We want people to be proud of it. That's what I want. Those are the achievements. So achievers, don't change that you're an achiever. Just change it to a bigger vision, a character builder that literally will leave you legacy that everybody's going to be talking about.
This is so beautiful. And to feed your faith, I was very close with my great grandmother. And she, one piece of information she gave me, or nugget, like, she was like, whatever you do, if you think you should do it, do it. And if you think you shouldn't do it, don't do it. And it taught me the impact of congruency, of how important alignment is. And you were speaking to this in terms of the human journey being a character development journey. And along that journey, as high achievers, it's so easy for us to get caught up in what I call the performance perfectionist trap.
Yes.
Where if I just do more, or if I'm more perfect, then I'm enough, then I'll get the love and recognition and validation. And that's not what we were created for. And to your point of when we do work, it's good for the human spirit to do work because it builds our character. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things, and I would love your input on this, my sister told this to me when I was in a performance perfection trap. She said, could you trust that you're being developed even if you're not developing yourself?
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget that God's got us.
Yeah.
And our doer activates. And well, if I do more, then it'll all get there.
And if I do more and it's at a certain level, then it's okay. But if I do it and I fail, which, I do the podcast Bouncing Back from Failure. So it's like, we look at failures as a bad thing instead of looking at it like, that's what I needed. Like, trust that God gave you what you needed. And I know there's a little bit of debate in the Christian world about whether God gives you difficulties or not. I don't believe in a God that purposely puts negative things at you, but I think he allows them. Obviously, in the book of Job, he allowed it, but he had to allow it. He didn't do it. Satan did all of that, right? So like, there's evil forces. I mean, whatever religion you have, most religions there's good and evil. There has to be a yin and a yang, because otherwise nothing makes sense. Even in science, right? Like, there's the positive and the negative. So there's the negative forces that come against you. And I have a father who allows it, but is there. and allows what I need to be stretched. And I always use this because I was a fitness coach. It's like when you are working your muscles and you are, you have those dumbbells and it's so hard, that last one, you're at your weakest point. Like if somebody came and hit my bicep when I'm trying to do a curl, say I'm trying to do a 20 or 25 curl, I could tear that muscle and it will take weeks, if not months, to heal because they can come at me at that. But if I allow myself to be protected in it as I'm stretching and it's still a struggle, then when I get done, I'm stronger. Mm-hmm. So God protects me through his wisdom of saying, when's enough? What is this for? Is this a sin? Like, meaning, is this for an extra greed or is this to really impact, having those realizations of it? And, you always say like, I want to do. Somebody told me this way back when, but we're human beings. We're not human doings. So who are you being in that moment? And I'm sure you've heard this before because, it's like a bumper sticker, but it's, if you want to have more, you need to do more. But in order to do more, you need to be more. So it's the be, do, have. Who do I need to become to do the things I need to do? Because it's okay to do things. Like, I don't want people to feel like, okay, well, then I'm going to give up all my to-do list. No, but who do you need to become to do the things with joy, peace, patience, kindness, all of those things, to have the things that you desire, the things in your heart, if they're pure, meaning if they're not of like sinful nature, like adultery, gluttony, all that thing. But I mean, if you want a nice car, it's okay to want a nice car. So what do you need to do to have that nice car? But what do you need to be in order to do the things to have the nice car where you're still that person of integrity, the person that is closer with your connector, the person that you've always wanted to be, to have a passionate, loving relationship, to be a kind, loving, significant, impactful mom? Who do you have to be? I ask myself that all the time because I get caught in the doing. And I said, who do I need to become to do the things I need to do, to have the things I need to have? Because I'll just go into the fine, I guess I'm not supposed to have that. Like my dream home or my dream car. And I'm like, or what do I need to do to have those things? More importantly, who do I need to become? And usually I'm the bottleneck. I couldn't relinquish control to hire that person to do that thing. I couldn't get out of my own way because I thought that I was going to be scrutinized. I couldn't get out of my own pride. I couldn't ask for help. So I just did it all and I became stressed out, overwhelmed, naggy, witchy, ugly, my ugly self. And then I have still nothing. Because even if I have the material thing, I feel so crappy that I don't even want it. And that's where a lot of achievers are. And that's why you see this in, right now, P. Diddy is under scrutiny because he wanted to have something. He wanted to be, I think, in a sense, God, whatever. And there's a lot of evil that happened in that. But even if you just wanted to be a mogul, like, I want to be a mogul, I want to have it. So I got to do the thing. So he became the wrong person to do the thing to have it. So you can still follow those and end up in the negative. You have to say, who do you really want to be in this world ultimately? And I really think if you would have asked P. Diddy clear back when he was younger, I don't know, when he became super corrupt, he probably didn't want to become who he is now. But because he didn't check what was important. And this is, again, if you are an entrepreneur, I don't care if you're female, male, driver of that, you have to say, I guess I always think about, what are my kids going to say at my funeral? Not what they're going to say in front of people, because they're always going to say nice things about you. We had an older gentleman just pass away in the community, and he was kind of a miser. I mean, he was mean, but at his funeral, everybody's talking pleasantries, and everybody went because nobody wanted to be the person who didn't show up to his funeral. So we do these pleasantry things. I want to know, this is where I might get emotional. When my mom passed away, my siblings and I all got on our floor with pictures and we talked about my mom and we talked stories and we were crying, but we were laughing. And somebody came in and they said, that's why I love this family, because even in this horrific situation, you're so close. You're still telling these stories. I want my daughters to be on the floor saying these amazing, true things, like truly missing me because of that. But knowing that the wisdom, the seeds that I gave them, they can live on in a legacy. I don't want the fake Instagram feed of all, the celebrity of like Matthew Perry. He was amazing. He was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. I'm like, where were his people that wanted to pull him out of the bits of that hell and tell him the truth and get out of it? And I know I had a sister that died from alcoholism. It's hard. But is that the legacy that you really, I loved Chandler Bing, but now all I see is this like hurt man. Randy Travis is an amazing country singer, and he was an alcoholic most of his life. And now I hear his songs and it just makes me sad. I don't want that legacy. I don't want to have P. Diddy. He was a great creator. And now how is he going to leave? Who did he become in those accomplishments? Mm-hmm. So who do you really want to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love what you have on your work, that character does not have to be compromised to build wealth. And I think that you're really saying that is focus on who you're becoming in the process of your doing. So your legacy is not just your legacy is a byproduct of who you're being, not just what you're doing. And I think that's so beautiful. For sake of time, I would love to ask you, we can talk forever. I would love to ask you how you define success.
So if you would have asked me this a couple months ago, I probably would have had a different answer. But if your audience doesn't know who Myron Golden is, he's amazing. But he said, defining success is doing what you were called to do every single day of your life. I'm paraphrasing, and being able to do that. So I think of it as being able to monetize that or give it back to the world for the value sake of it. So if you're doing something, like I said before, that's bringing out the good character of you and you're able to build and develop that. Now, again, we live in a world where you can't do that without making money, because otherwise you and your spouse would be poor, broke, and on the street. So if you can find something that you're really good at, your gifts, like we were all given different gifts, and you can monetize that in a way that's building your character and becoming the person that you are, again, getting closer to God, being who you're supposed to be in the beginning, but we don't, then that's success. If it's just chasing money or accolades, but you're being this fake person on Instagram, or you're being this fake person over here, that's not success. If you're just doing this thing because it's creating income, but you hate it. I don't know how many people I've heard and I've interviewed, and they're like, well, when social media marketing came out, I became a social media marketer, or I did all these funnels. I hated every bit of it. That's not success. They might have built $1 million companies. That wasn't success. Doing what you're called to do. Once you know you're called to do it and you do it, you just got to figure out how to monetize it. And we live in an amazing time where we can monetize almost anything. I mean, honestly, I have seen some entrepreneurs do some crazy stuff. It's like, it's just crazy. Like, you love animals, you can create boutiques for dogs on stores and be a millionaire because people spend lots of money on their dogs. There's just so many crazy things that you can do. If you can macrame, you can do it on Etsy and sell it. So whatever you're called to do. And then when you can monetize that and like gift it to the world and share it, and it's building this great character, so you're just a great human being, like, that's success.
Love that. Where can people find you?
You can go to keeplegacywealth.com. That's kind of where we have some freebies and stuff, especially if you're someone who's like, I want to, we didn't talk a lot about this, but invest in real estate. Again, I know there's a lot of gurus out there like, buy your first, There's so many advantages to this, and just building your legacy through income properties. Tabthorell.com. That's kind of my website, or on Instagram, Facebook, Tab Thorell. Hit me up, DM me. I love to connect with people. And also YouTube. That's where our podcast is housed, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can listen to those as well.
I listened to one of your episodes and it was amazing. The one you just released about bankruptcy to seven-figure business, and just the wisdom and the nuggets and the the mental toughness and growth and inner character development that we all have to go on. So your podcast is awesome. So everyone listening, go check that out. And we'll have all of the links you just mentioned in the show notes. And Tabatha, it was awesome having you on and seeing you actually embody what success means to you, figuring out your calling and living it. So it's been a pleasure to get to know you and connect. And I want you on. Thank you.
Thank you, Staci, so much.
Yes. And to everyone listening, remember that as you build your businesses and you build your life, you can stay rooted in principles and character and integrity and trust and still get shit done. So go do both and integrate your dreamer and your doer. Cheers, y'all.